All right, everybody, welcome to week 10 of the. Well, let me do one thing first before we fully get started. There we go. Welcome to week 10 of the Apple App Development class. I'm Michael Doise. We're back again. We are here to talk SwiftUI for the first time this week. We have Becky back with us, helping out with hosting. Hey, Becky, welcome back.
Hi, Michael.
All right, and we have Taylor with us. Hi, Taylor.
Uh, Hello.
All right. Very excited for this today, folks. This is kind of the day we've all been waiting for. 9 weeks in total. This is the 10th. We've had 3 weeks of learning Xcode, getting around. I'm not going to be covering that today. So if you need a refresher on how to create a new app project, you need to go back and look at those. Then we did, the 7 classes on working with Swift. So I guess those are, 6. Yep, 6 classes on Swift. So we are now starting on SwiftUI today, some basics of SwiftUI. Before we get going, though, I want to see if people have questions from the last class that we had, or anything in general.
Yeah, Margaret here. I have a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
Um, in structures, in the structures class, you had a read age function, and it had a func read age, and it had returned an int.
Wi-Fi connected.
Whoops, sorry. But then when you printed it, it printed as a string. Should that have been an integer?
So did we do print left parentheses, read age, right parentheses, or the left parentheses, right parentheses for the arguments, then a right parentheses, or did we put it inside of the
I don't know, I'll have to check.
because print can print a integer if we don't have it like if we don't concatenate it to a string.
Productions Incorporated. 4 new episodes.
I'll have to check how it did it. I can probably do it at some point and bring up
Okay.
the file that I have of it.
Okay, and feel free to post it in the classroom. Guys, we have the classroom. If you have any questions, feel free to post there as well. So you could post any questions and me and Taylor can see those and answer those. So if you have questions, or maybe you say, hey, if we can set up office hours to help with this, we can set something up and make that happen. Any other questions?
Oh yeah, I have another one actually. When you did the, I don't know what you called them, but they're when you did the await and the actors, the try and await section, at one point in the first function you had try question mark await. Does that mean that is an optional between those two values, try and await?
So the result of the try is optional. If we don't get an error, or if we don't get a result from the try, then that's optional. That's why the question mark is there.
Okay, but you only put one value. You only had 1 nanosecond value in there. Didn't you all, oh no, you didn't have two values. You don't need, do you need two values?
From classroom. New material.
You do not need two values. It's just how you write it. So it's not we're not using guardlet or anything. It's just try to do this, and if it doesn't work, then it's fine. It can be nil.
Oh, all right, okay, it can be nil, all right. All right, thank you.
Okay. Last call for any questions, and then we are going to get started.
As of right now, there are no hands raised.
Okay. Well, I guess we're going to get started then. So I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to talk about some SwiftUI. So first off, what is SwiftUI? SwiftUI is a replacement. We talked about this earlier, but it's basically a replacement to previous architectures that Apple has used for decades. On the Mac, we called it AppKit, AppKit. On the iPhone, it was UIKit. Okay. AppKit was based off Objective-C, so was UIKit. And so everything else was kind of built off that as well. We moved to SwiftUI after the creation of the Swift programming language. Much of the way we programmed in Swift was based on Objective-C, which is why it's so wonderful that we don't have to do that anymore. So basically, got my screen shared. So basically, with SwiftUI, we can write applications in a much faster amount of time without going through as many details. Now, previously, the way that you would code is you have to describe all of the events in your app. Okay. What happens when the screen loads? What happens whenever the screen appears? What happens when you press the button? What happens, you look for events. It was event driven, basically. So you had listeners that listened for different events. In SwiftUI, we don't do that. Okay. In SwiftUI, it is all about defining what we want before we even say, before we do, the user does anything. In SwiftUI, you can really improve development time because everything is text-based. UIKit and AppKit, everything was, a lot of people use storyboards, which were not very accessible. And now everything's done by text with a lot less lines of code. So SwiftUI uses what are called views. A view is anything and everything you could see on the screen. Anything and everything is a view. Okay? That's the difference with SwiftUI. Anything and everything you see is a view. A view is a description of what should appear on screen. They are made using structs that conform to a view protocol. So it's not inheritance, but it's saying when we conform it to a view, it's saying this thing that I'm creating is a view. And everything that is in the body is shown visually. Okay. So we're going to talk about that here. So I've got a project open in Xcode, and I'm going to not delete when I need to. So I have a project open. It's a blank template. I've removed some lines of code. So in SwiftUI is very similar to the code you've already written, but the most simple thing that we can do is import SwiftUI. When we import SwiftUI, we're saying we're going to use SwiftUI in our apps. Okay. And that's all you have to do to say you're using SwiftUI. And then we're going to create a struct. So we're going to say struct content view : view. And that says that we're conforming to a view. And then we're going to say var body : sum view space left brace. And there's a left brace before or at the end of the struct line, just like we had before. And we're going to use text, parentheses, double quote, hello, comma, world, exclamation mark, double quote, right parentheses, right brace, right brace. We wrote an app. 5 lines, wrote an app. It wrote a whole app, or at least the visual interface for the app. 5 lines of code. Pretty incredible, isn't it? So let's look at all of these things. So when we say struct content view : view, content view is the name of our screen. Apple creates a content view for every new app. So you could name it my hello world view for all Apple cares. Okay. And that would work. And then we have var body : sum view left brace. So we're creating, so when we create the body, anything put in the body is drawn or put on screen. Okay. Then we create a text, and text is a view. Just like content view is a view, text is a view. So what this means is anything that can be shown on screen, whether it's a whole screen of an app or some text on screen, those are all views. Now, I know that this is a little bit, it's kind of a lot of information. So I want to see if anybody has any questions to start off.
All right. I'm not seeing any hands just yet.
So, okay. The reason why, and I know this is a lot different from how a lot of people are used to programming, we call this declarative programming. And what that means is we declare everything we want to do when we start working. Okay. So right now we're using static text. Okay. So I can then go here and dismiss my window here because participants is, I kind of wish that, I guess I can move that window open. So I'm going to make a new line after line 12. I'm going to make it on line 13. I'm going to write text again with a capital T, parentheses, text parentheses, double quote. This is some more text, period, double quote, right parentheses. Okay. And SwiftUI has a thing called previews. So without even running the app, I can see that SwiftUI, because it's magical, has centered our text and has put one above the other for us already. That's amazing. It just kind of knows magically, like, okay, you would probably want it like that if you're just displaying text on the screen without any guidance, which is great. Also, previews in SwiftUI update in real time. So if you're using VoiceOver, you should be able to read through the canvas and find your views. But a lot of times it's just easier to run in the simulator. VoiceOver will read the simulator or run on device. Taylor, do you have anything to add as far as that? I hear you talking in the other room, Taylor, but I don't hear you. I do not. Taylor's having some audio issues. Becky, can you confirm that? Can you say something just so I make sure my setup is going?
Yes, Taylor was not muted, so I'm not sure what's going on. It could
Okay.
just be that she didn't have things connected in Zoom
That can happen.
properly.
So we'll come back to that when Taylor gets that straightened out. One other area I want to mention at line 17 in every new view, there's a thing that says number sign preview, and that's saying with a capital P, and that's saying this is for previewing in SwiftUI. So preview space left brace, content view parentheses parentheses, and then a right brace. So basically, we can show how things should be previewed, and we can, do more with that later, and we will do more with that later, but at least you know it's there. So again, to review, content view is a view, and it displays two text fields. That's the basics of using SwiftUI. There's another file that gets generated, like I call this Hello World app, and so we have another file called Hello World app.swift. If I call this like weather station, if I call the app weather station, it would be called weather station app.swift. And that file, I'm going to go to it now and explore it. It had the first line again is import SwiftUI, and it skips a line, and it says at main. So this is the main entry point of the app. Then we have struct hello world app : app. So it conforms to an app protocol, var body : some view, some scene. So that is a window scene. So you could do all kinds of cool tabbing and other interface elements here as the car goes by loudly. Let that go by. And then inside of that var body : some scene, we have window group. And then we have content view. And that's it. This does not have a preview because you can't preview a scene. You could preview things in the scene, but not the scene. So this basically says this is the start of our app. And in there, we're calling, just like we're calling a function, we're calling our struct. We're creating a new instance of our content view struct. Now, the weird thing is, unlike classes in SwiftUI, or in Swift, I can create as many content views as I want. So we can create new versions of a screen just by creating a new instance. It's really neat. Which we'll see in later times. So you can make templates. You can make a screen and make it a template so you could use it in different circumstances. Okay. Now, so we have content view and our app file. Does anybody have questions about those things?
At the moment, there are no hands raised.
Yes, I have a question as well.
Okay.
I'm not sure how you got the app view. Is that a separate file?
Yes, that is a separate file. When you create a new app project, like we talked about earlier in the course, it creates two files, content view and the app file.
Okay, so you'd go into the navigator to go back and forth?
Yes, exactly. The project navigator.
Okay.
Very good. Okay. Now, any other questions before we move on? Okay. Very good. Now, next up, SwiftUI works on the principle of state. So I can, when I create these are static texts. So on line 12 and 13, where we have text hello world and text, this is some more text. That's static text. That's not going to change. Okay. So let's create some text that can change. So let's go and make a new line right below struct content view colon view and and put that new line right before var body some view. I like to make two lines and kind of leave some space. And I'm going to write var, at state with a capital S, at state space var, what should we call this?
How about name, Michael?
I thought about
Or
name.
name, or you could call it like favorite color. I remember doing that in the Swift days. Bring
Well,
it back there.
we'll come to that, but I'm gonna call it dynamic text
That's a good one.
equals double quote. Actually, no, we're gonna put some text in there. We're gonna put starting text. So that text will start there. So when we look at our preview, or if we ran the app on a device, well, nothing would happen, but that variable would say starting text. So now we're going to go make another text after line now 15 for me. So this will be line 16. I'm going to write text, left parentheses, dynamic text, right parentheses. Think of text kind of like a print statement, but visual. Okay. So, but there's one thing a print statement can't do. Okay. So we've said that this text is dynamic text. So in our preview, it says starting text. Okay. Now, here's the cool thing. What we can do is we can now say dynamic text equals double quote some new text, double quote. And apparently I can't spell because I missed an N in dynamic text. So we got an error.
Oh, good job.
And so now,
Watch the T in text because that's capitalized, I believe.
yes, I did capitalize that.
Yeah, well, I was saying that to the general class.
Yeah. So you want to make sure that you use the same case as the variable that you create. And I still can't spell because I put DYNANIC text. And it's still not liking something there. Because it cannot conform to view. What are we missing?
Hold on.
So there is a typo somewhere. So I wonder if you cannot let me declare that as a string so the compiler knows it's a string. No, I think you cannot assign directly in SwiftUI like that, but you should. I don't know why it's giving us an error like this. Okay. Because I should be able to, so this was a test to see if this would work, but that does not, you may not be able to declare that right in the body to assign that. So, we will change that around. So what you can do though, is we can have something else that can change that text. So what we could do is we could, no, I guess a function wouldn't work here either to do that. We can create a button with a capital B, so B-U-T-T-O-N, left parentheses. And there's several ways you can write this. I like to do button, left parentheses, action, colon, left brace. And I put a new line to kind of put that on its own line. And we're going to say dynamic text. This text has changed. And then after that, we're going to do a right brace, comma, label, lowercase. The action and label are lowercase. So label, colon, space, left brace, a text. We're going to write a text, like a text view, like we created. Change text. So I will read this out so people can understand. So on line 17, I have button with a capital B, left parentheses, action, colon, left brace, dynamic text equals, the text has changed. Double quote. Then on the next line, we have a right brace to end the action. So it's kind of like, when you click this, what's the action? Label, colon, space, left brace, text, left brace, or left parentheses, double quote, change text. And sure enough, in our simulator, we have a blue button that says change text. If I click it, our text becomes, the text has changed. Now, why is that? So the action of this button just says dynamic text equals, double quote, the text has changed. All we've done there is we've changed the value of dynamic text, okay? Why does that work? Why does just changing a value in a string change what that third text field says? Does anybody have a guess? If you'd like to raise your hand or unmute if you have a guess.
No hands raised.
Do you have a guess, Becky?
Not at the moment.
Basically, what's happening is when we use the word state with the @ sign, we are saying this variable will be tracked. Kind of like, I'll bring up a touchy subject here. You know how those apps online track your data? Like, what you're doing, where you're going. It's kind of like that. State variables, their data is tracked by SwiftUI. That's actually a pretty good comparison now that I think about it. Wow. So their data is being tracked. So anytime it changes, if anything references that variable in SwiftUI, then it gets updated. So there's no event handling in SwiftUI. Even that action in button left parentheses action colon space left brace, that's not really an event. That's just saying anytime this button's used, this is what you should do. Because events are typically on click, on, or whenever enter is used, or different events. It could be all kinds of events, but anytime the action is used, that's the difference, right? So we've looked at three types of views: a full screen, which is our content view. We've looked at text views, and we've looked at buttons. Okay. So is everybody understanding views? Like, what is a view? Are you understanding that? Or do you have any questions? Or do I need to explain it a different way?
Yeah, I have one question. I'm sorry, it's easier for me to unmute. Am
Go
I
ahead.
there?
Yep.
When you have the full screen view, can you write in that view, or do you have to put it in as text?
Well, that's what you're doing. You're putting views inside of other views. It's kind of like, think of it as like nesting. Like you're putting things in a drawer.
So you can't really do anything with the full screen except put other views on it,
Correct.
like buttons and text and maybe other things as well.
Right. But my question is, what else would you want to do?
Say you want to draw a circle.
Then you would use a shape, or you would use a image view.
Binder, recent window, untitled F,
Okay.
the August 2024 at 2:33.
My other computer's already up, and sorry.
You would use a view to represent that shape or that image.
So in other words, you have a number of building blocks that you're going to be able to put on the total screen view.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you.
Absolutely. So basically, like Margaret was saying, you have building blocks that you can use on your bigger view, and you can use those building blocks even your full screen. Think of it everything as blocks, kind of like the block editor in WordPress or any other website builder. You have little blocks that you can use that are bits of code. Okay. The cool thing is, and now we're going to get into something called modifiers. Okay. So let's modify our first text on line 13 or line 14, sorry. So text hello world. Let's make it green. Okay. So we're going to use the we're going to make a new line, and to use a modifier, we're going to modify the thing above it. Okay. So we're going to say period foreground color with a capital C, left parentheses, and there's two ways you could do this. You could write color with a capital C, but it kind of already knows that. So we could just put period green, right parentheses. It's that easy. We've just turned that first text green. Those are modifiers. Okay. Now, one of the things that's a little weird about modifiers is they are cascading. So I'm going to show you the next thing. We're going to change the background color of, this is some more text. And we're going to use a modifier. We're going to use background, left parentheses, point blue, right parentheses. Now, that's terrible contrast. So let's go to the next line, and we're going to do point foreground color, left parentheses, point white, right parentheses. And that will make the foreground color white. So that's some better contrast. Okay. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Maybe you don't like the spacing that we get with that color. So I want to add what is called some padding that puts some space around that blue background. So I'm going to use period padding and then parentheses. Now, here's something that happens. We added the padding after we added the background of blue. That's a problem because we wanted the blue to be more around, we wanted there to be more blue. But the problem is our modifiers take one after the other. So we've basically added padding, some space around the bless you, Taylor, around the blue and the text. So we've added white space that just kind of doesn't look good. So what we can do, and there's some weird glitches with Xcode. I don't know if that's while Zoom's running, but we can remove padding after our background and foreground color. And we can add padding before our background color. And now we've got a nice, beautiful box around that text. So we did all of that just by changing the position of the modifiers after the text. So the order of your modifiers matter. Okay. Do we have any questions about that?
As of right now, it doesn't look like you've got any hands raised.
And Taylor, you are unmuted.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Like sneezing all that nonsense. Gotta love audio.
Yep. Any other questions real quick before we continue? Okay. This is a lot that we're covering, so I just want to make sure everybody is good and understands what we're talking about before we continue. All right. Now, we can also and I think that we need to do this before we change the background color. I will try it and we will see what happens. No. So, well, that's not even, I thought it was point radius. It might be corner radius. Yes. Corner radius 10. And I put 2 periods at the beginning of that, so that's not going to work. So that did not change our corner radius. So we need to add that after our background color because it needs to chop off the colors of the background. So let's do that. Let's move this after foreground color. And we're going to paste that in. And we've got a blue box with rounded edges. Pretty cool. And here's the thing, folks. We're just writing very basic code. That was just period corner radius with a capital R. And then parentheses 10. It's not like we are having to go and write all of this in CSS and go between HTML and all of that. You know, we've made some pretty cool stuff that has an action and all those things. And this whole file is 32 lines. That's, I think, pretty incredible. Now, what happens if we want to add a text field? We can do that. Okay. So after we have our dynamic text, let's press enter and we're going to make a new line on line 22. And we're going to use the a view called text field. And we're going to do left parentheses, double quote, enter the text to use, period, double quote, comma, space, $, because this, I'll explain that in a minute. And then we're going to use dynamic text with capital T, right parentheses. So, and it looks like we have an error. We don't like errors. It's because we need an argument of text. Let's see if that fixes it. I think arguments are start with a lowercase instead of capital. There we go. So we have text field, capital T, capital F, left parentheses, double quote. Enter the text to use, period, double quote, comma, space text, colon. So this is saying what text are we going to, variable are we going to change? Space, $ dynamic text. The $ says, we're not just going to read this variable. Oh, no. We're going to write to it. So it's a two-way binding. We're binding this variable to be read and write. So now we have a text field. And it aligns it all the way to the left. And it automatically puts the text that's in, so it puts the text that is already there. And if there's no text, like if the variable is empty, it says it has placeholder text. Enter the text to use. And as you type, you'll notice that the text for dynamic text changes. So this text is changing in real time, period. So setting a text field to a state variable that is also set to a label will also change the label as you type. You don't have to press a button. You don't have to do anything like that. It just tracks what you do as you type because of tracking variable states. Now, another thing that we can do, and you'll need to do this in your assignment, so pay very close attention. We're going to go back into our button. We have button left parentheses action, colon, space, left brace, and we're going to have dynamic text equals double quote, double quote. And we're going to change text in the label to be reset. Now, what that's going to do is when I press that button, it's going to set the text to empty because it's setting it to double quote, double quote. Okay. So now I can go back in the text field and say, this is a bunch of text that will soon be reset. And then I can press the reset button. Boom, it's gone. The contents of the text field and what's in the label resets. Okay. All right. So, any questions there? We're making apps, folks. We're making apps.
You don't have any hands, Michael. Sorry.
Okay. No problem. Any questions real quick? Because we're about to cover one last thing tonight because this is a lot of information. Okay. We're going to cover how to lay out things in an app. Okay. And we're going to touch on that briefly, but we're going to talk about that. So does anybody have any questions about views or the different views we've looked at? Okay. So let's talk about visually or non-visually laying out our content. Okay. Typically, and I don't know if they've changed this rule, but there is a limit of 10 views that can be in a group at once. This content view is a group. We currently have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items in this group. That's half of our usage right there. Okay. So we have ways we can deal with that. We can add items to a group view, which is fine, but not very useful. But we can also add them to what's called a stack. Now, the way that Apple is laying out this stuff already for us is called a vertical stack. It's one on top of the other, on top of the other, all lined up in the middle. Okay. So that's fine. That's totally cool. But, you know, maybe we want to make this thing look a little prettier. So let's do that. So at line 14, I'm going to make a new line right below var body sum view. And I'm going to write the word VStack, capital V, capital S-T-A-C-K, space left brace. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make our, this is some more text. We're going to change some things around. We're going to move our text hello world down one level, and we're going to move our this is some text and all of its modifiers up into the VStack. So I'm just going to select all those lines and paste. So in the VStack currently we have text, left parentheses, double quote. This is some text, so some more text. And I'm going to change that to be hello world. This is not how you accessibly do this, by the way, but this is what we're going to do today. Hello world, we're just changing that label to be hello world. And so it is now the first item in the list. And then what we're going to do is we're going to move the text hello world with that is green. We're going to put both of those lines in the VStack. Because remember, VStack is a code block. It has a left brace and a right brace to close it up. So we're just adding lines of code to that code block. And since we have the words hello world twice, what we're going to do is we're just going to change that to this is some more text, just like we had before. Okay, easy enough. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to move our text for that is dynamic into the VStack below the green text. We're just going to, you know, move it. And then we're going to move just both our button and our text field and our button there too. Okay. So now everything is properly grouped in our VStack. So, and then I got a lot of white space to go and remove. Just make sure to check that in your apps. So I've added a vertical group in just a few lines of code. Now, we're still only at 35 lines of code. Okay. Now, here's where we get to some fun things. We have our original text as a full text field that goes along the width of the phone and the reset button below it. Well, what if we want the text field and the reset button on the same line. We can do that because SwiftUI is cool. Okay. So what we could do is make a new line below or above the text field, and we're going to write H stack, capital H, capital S, T-A-C-K, space left brace. Okay. And then we're going to move the text field and the button in that H stack. And if it does what I think it should do, and it did, it has put reset on the far right and our text in the text field on the far left. So we have now laid out that content there. Okay. Now we still have everything in the middle of the screen. What if we don't want it in the middle of the screen? What if we want our title to be like our hello world in blue with rounded corners? What if we want it to be all the way at the top? We can do that. So after the hello world with the blue and the padding and the this and the that modifiers, we're going to write the word spacer with a capital S. So spacer, left parentheses, right parentheses. And what that's going to do is it's going to push hello world to the top and everything else back down to the bottom. Well, that's no good too. I mean, the text field and the reset button need to be at the bottom. That would look pretty cool. But this is some text, and our text that's going to be changed should probably be in the middle. Well, we can do that. And because SwiftUI is smart like that, what we do is we add another spacer. And I'll go into more detail about how this works. So after our text, dynamic text, and our H stack, we're going to use the spacer again. And that is Apple is going to know it wants me to push all that stuff back to the middle. So in the top, we have our title, Hello World, which I keep spelling with a capital O. Why do I do that? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to reread the whole app so you can understand how this works. Okay. So at the top, we have Hello World. In the middle, we have this is some more text, which we could probably, just so that we understand this, let's do this. We're going to change this to some more text to text below will be changed frequently. Okay. Now it's very clear that the green text that says the text below will be changed frequently. So I could go down here and I could say reset, and that text is gone. I could say here, I clicked on that. Here is some text, and that text above will change. So guys, we've set up layouts for this entire app. And you know the really cool thing? This whole layout will exist on an iPhone, on an iPad, on a Mac, an Apple Watch, a Vision Pro, an Apple TV with one code base. You don't have to change this. Now, there are things that you can do to better set up things for those screen sizes, but this won't look like a terrible phone app on those bigger screens. This is going to adapt to the screen size, which means that thing we sent to the top will always be at the top and look properly suited at the top on those bigger screens. The things that we have in the middle will be right in the middle on every screen. no matter what size, even an Apple Watch, just because of how we've coded this. The things that we sent to the bottom, the text field and the reset button that are in the H stack, those will align too because of SwiftUI. We are not responsible for how those things look because of how we've done our generic layouts. We are not using pixels. We are not using any of that. When we used our radius, yeah, we're using pixels there, but it's not as big of a deal. And there's some ways that we can improve the layout on this. But again, we've done all of this in now 41 lines of code. We're going to do one more thing for today, but that was a lot of stuff that we've done. So any questions?
No one has their hand up at the moment.
We don't have a lot of people here tonight, so not a problem. All right. You know, we had the really fun night today and not a lot of people here. So I hope they watch later because this is I'm having fun teaching this because this is the start of what the class is all about. So what's that one last thing we can do? Well, maybe we don't want to have our action in our button. Maybe we could use some of that knowledge we have to reset that text field. So let's do it. Let's just remove the content of the button action. So for me, just remove everything on line 28. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the bottom of our struct, which is if I can talk, line 35, and make a new line. 36 is the end of our struct. So we're going to make a new code block after var body sum view. And what we're going to write is func. See, this is why you had to learn the Swift stuff. And we're going to call it func reset text, 2 parentheses, space left brace. And then we're going to use, just like we had before, dynamic text equals double quotes. Or we could do starting text, however we wanted to do it. But now we've used a function to change what's in SwiftUI. I could even then create, and this is a little hint, I could create another button. So I could then go to line 31, and after the button, well, we don't want to do that because we're in a, well, actually we could, we're in an H stack. So it'll just push everything over one amount of space. So we're going to make another button. Button, left parentheses, action, colon, space left brace, new line, print results. Oh, print results, parentheses. That function doesn't exist yet, so you're going to get a big fun error. And then we're going to go down here. Well, actually, we need to finish our button. So we go to the right brace. So you have a right brace and a right parentheses if you're writing your button the way I do. And then, so after the right brace, you'll do a comma, space label, all lowercase, colon, space left brace, text. Actually, you know what? I'm going to show y'all how to do something cool. We're going to use, instead of a text, we're going to use a label. Label with a capital L. It's a view. We're going to write print print space results, double quote, comma, system image, which is a capital S, capital I, colon, space, double quote, printer, double quote, right parentheses. Yes, we are using what's called an SF symbol. And these symbols are a bunch of pictures that you can use in your own apps for adding graphical icons to your stuff. So let's go down here, and at line 44 now for me, we're going to use func print results, parentheses, space, left brace, print, left parentheses, double quote. The current dynamic text is colon, space, backslash, left parentheses, dynamic text. Right parentheses, double quote, right parentheses. Okay. I've got one error. I missed the colon after action. Okay. So it still doesn't like something. What does it? Oh, there it is. So we have a reset button and a print results button, and we have them both aligned on that H stack. The one thing though, the H stack is up against the left and right edges, which they do, but we can fix that. After our H stack block, which for me is now on line 38, let's write period padding. You know, one of those wonderful modifiers that we can use. And there you go. Apple just magically does its magic and has created a proper amount of padding to make it look good on both sides. Hey, I am just deleting text. My Mac, you do not need to beep at me. So the one thing that we're going to see, and let's see what happens. This is a large amount of text in this text field. So one of the things that happens is it truncates visually because it's it's too much text for it to display on an iPhone screen. We can fix that though. And if you guessed another modifier, you'd be right. So after our text field, before the button that we create, oh, you know what? I deleted the reset out of the wrong one. So there we go. That's fixed. So after text field, I was like, why is there a missing line? I'm missing something here. After text field, so this would be line 27. We could put period, number of lines, I believe. And we can set that to 0. Oh, it does not like that. Value of type, text field. Yeah, it does not like that. So let's set it to 2. So we would probably need a text editor here instead. So we're just going to keep it as a text field. I guess number of lines is not something, a modifier you can use on the text field. That's fine. But there are different text field styles you can use and all kinds of different things. like rounded text fields, all of those kind of things. But it gets the job done. It gets the job done for this example today. So we have seen how to use functions in our structs. We've seen how to, there's an error that I created. Let's see. Text field, enter the text to blah, blah, blah. Okay. Oh, there's an extra right parentheses there. Okay. That's fixed. We've seen how to do all of these things. I mean, the one thing I would probably change is there's good padding on the left side and the right side. Probably more padding than we need at the bottom, but it's fine. And everything else looks pretty good. So again, we've built an app. So we will be working with a lot more views next time. And we'll actually see how to build some proper apps that will look pretty cool. So, any final questions?
No hands are raised right now.
Because I'm about to tell you all your assignment.
Yeah, I have a question,
Go ahead.
moderator. How does VoiceOver show you how your lines and your padding and everything are showing up, or does it not?
It does not. However, what you should do is, and I always tell people this, this is why we don't learn to rely on flicking. Explore by touch and just see where things are laid out on your screen.
Oh yeah, I use that all the time. Yeah, okay.
Explore by touch, feel where things are on your screen. And, even what's kind of cool is you can take a
recent window, untitled activity, August 1/6 comp.
Now, does it, let's see. Do you find it in the debug area? The results where the picture is?
It'll say it'll say canvas if the canvas isn't.
Oh, in the canvas area. Okay, all right, got it. Okay.
But if you could also try, you won't be able to really do much of that. You'll be able to feel, you'll be able to get a feel of what controls are visible in the canvas. But unless you put it on a proper device, you won't get the best feel for how things are laid out with VoiceOver.
Oh, got it. So connect our iPhone. Okay. All
You don't
right.
need,
All right.
so you look that up. But the other thing that I would recommend is take a screenshot and send it to like Be My AI or
Oh
ChatGPT.
yeah, I've been doing it with AI or Ira,
Mm-hmm.
the AI in Ira. I'm in the
Oh.
Astro program or whatever. I do it for every class.
Great.
Like tonight I've done, I don't know, I gotta leave like maybe 10 screenshots tonight.
Fantastic. So I would do that. That's the approach I would take. And just see how you can make it better or things like that. And AI can even give you recommendations. Like if you send it to ChatGPT and say, I'm building iOS apps, how can I make my layout better? It can make recommendations. You could even send it your code and the screenshot and say, I've got this view. How do I improve it?
Awesome, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Here is the assignment for the first SwiftUI class. Using VStacks and HStacks and text.
Finder, recent window, untitled activity, August 1/6 comma 2024 at 2 colon.
Through there.
Space PM level 1.
Using VStacks, HStacks, text fields, or text views with like your labels and text fields. Create the best looking form you can to get user information. And once you're done, create a reset button that can reset all the fields in the form. And once, other than reset, have it another button that says send results. And what the send results button should do is do what we just did with printing your results to the terminal. So while we're not sending them to a file, we're sending them technically outside the app to the debugger. And that way you're building an app that simulates everything that you'd be doing with a form. So like name, address, phone number, favorite color, questions you'd want to ask on a form. And then add the ability to reset or to save the results, which would then print them to the terminal. That's the assignment, and we'll be posting that tonight. Any questions?
You basically want us to create a form with the text, with some information for the user. And then do you want them to be able to print, type in the text as you did there, or just have the two buttons?
No, they need to be able to type in the text with text field. So multiple text fields. I think 5 or 6 text fields or form options would be good.
Okay.
So what you can do is you'll need 5 or 6 state variables to hold each bit of text. You're going to need multiple H stacks for the label and the text field. And then you're going to need 2 buttons, and find some really cool ways to lay that all out to look, nice on an iPhone screen. And then, you could even embed all of that. I mean, if say all of this didn't fit on the screen, but we know it does, right? But one of the things that I could do where my VStack is, I could embed my VStack in a scroll view. And when I embed the VStack, our whole app that's in a VStack, make sure I get all of the relevant code here. And let's see. Sometimes just knowing which parentheses should be grabbed is difficult. Let me. That is the one for body. So one more above that. And we're just going to grab everything, and I'm going to cut it to the clipboard and paste it inside the scroll view. That did not turn out the way I wanted it to. It aligned everything at the top. So, but I think it has to do with something else. But we'll look at scroll view another time. But there are ways that you can do that. But just use the current. It'll all fit on the screen. I'm not sure why it aligned everything at the top, even though all of that stuff was there. But scroll view is another view you can use to make things scrollable. But it does have some other changes that happen. But yeah, that's the assignment. Just create several form fields, create a reset button and a save button that prints the results, and have fun with it. Make your own apps, kind of play around and see what you can do, and use your AI, figure out spacing, all of those things, and just send those in whenever you can, and I'll look over them. But I've really enjoyed teaching you guys this stuff today. This has been a lot of fun, and we'll work on working with more views next week. I've got my homework with the scroll view now because it should have worked that way. So I will be putting this on the platform shortly. So very exciting stuff. And feel free to send any questions you have to the Google Classroom, and we'll see everybody next week.